Hey, I do like this.
Mark Twain once said that cauliflower is nothing but cabbage with a college education. It is a sophisticated vegetable, more so than the cabbage. It has less sulfurous compounds and is less stinky, if you will. Cauliflower is actually a very nutritious vegetable. It contains many anti-cancer compounds, and many of us should be eating it for that reason. However, when you ask people about their preferred vegetables, cauliflower is usually not on the list. When I ask them why they don't like cauliflower, many of them tell me it's stinky and it's mushy. I would contend that most people overcook the cauliflower. We're going to teach you how not to do that today. We look at what causes the smell in cauliflower, and it's actually some sulfurous compounds called thiocyanates. And they do create an odor, but the odor becomes stronger the longer the vegetable is cooked. Again, many people are overcooking those. Now, cauliflower is part of a family called the Brassica family, and there are many vegetables in this group, including broccoli. We have green cabbage here, some lovely collard greens, purple cabbage. We have rutabaga here, and then we also have some Brussels sprouts, and then we have some beautiful dinosaur kale. All of these vegetables are in the same family. Sometimes we call them cruciferous vegetables. Now, cauliflower, when it grows, it begins as a little bud and leaves covering it. And as these dense flower buds grow bigger and bigger, the leaves continue to cover the cauliflower and protect it from the sun the entire time it's growing. When it's time to harvest, you pull back the leaves, and here you have this beautiful creamy white vegetable. Now, cauliflower also comes in other colors. You can get it in orange, green, and purple. Some of you may be familiar with a new hybrid vegetable that actually crossbreeds the broccoli and the cauliflower, and it's called broccoflower. It actually has less dense flowers, or florets as we call them, and it cooks a little quicker and it's less strong. So if you haven't had cauliflower or learned to appreciate it yet, that might be a good place to begin as well. Now that you have the courage to go to the grocery store and pick out a cauliflower, what do you look for? This is a real good example of a fresh one, fresh cauliflower. It's got nice green leaves that aren't wilted. It's got real tight florets. They're not starting to wilt. And it doesn't have any brown spots on it. Nice white creamy color. So that's a good sign that it's fresh. And when you choose a fresh one like this in the grocery store, it'll last for about a week or two in the crisper of the refrigerator. So at the end of that 2 weeks, if you do start to see a couple of little brown spots, it's not a big deal, just trim them off. Just think of them as freckles, so you can just cut them off a little bit. So you can also buy the whole cauliflower like this, and the whole heads in the grocery store. And it takes a little bit of time to cut it up, but I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Or you can buy the cauliflower florets that are pre-cut. And these do cost a little bit more, but if time is of the essence, then they're a good choice. So it just depends on if that day time or money is the priority. So let me just show you how you trim this. First of all, you just remove all of these leaves, stems, and then when you get most of those taken off, make sure that you give it a quick rinse. And then with a sharp knife, just take a good couple of cuts right down into the stem. And you'll notice that that whole stem comes out in one piece. And then just finish taking out the rest of the leaves. And then at that point, to cut it into florets, you just need to go around each floret and just cut it off kind of one at a time. And whoops. And just cut those off one at a time. If you get some really big ones, then we can just cut those into quarters. That doesn't take very long, does it? As Janet mentioned, cauliflower is not one of people's favorite vegetables. So a lot of times when you see cauliflower on a vegetable tray, it's one of the last vegetables to be taken. So I wanted to just show you a real simple sauce or dip that you can make that will make cauliflower taste really great. So first of all, you have a 1/4 cup of peanut butter, and then you just have to add, let's see, 2 tablespoons of hot water, and just whisk that together until it starts to thin down a little bit. And then once that becomes a smoother consistency, then you just add in, this is a mixture of seasoned rice vinegar, and seasoned rice vinegar has a little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar added to it, and this is soy sauce and a little bit of milk. And so these are just combined. You just pour that in and finish mixing this together. And it's really, really simple, but it makes a great dip for cauliflower or really any vegetable. Okay, next I'll show you some real easy ways to cook cauliflower. The first one is to steam it. And this is a steamer basket, and these just cost a few dollars. You can get them in any dollar store. They collapse, so they don't take up very much room to store. But the way you use these is just put your cauliflower, and you can do this with any vegetable. Just put the cauliflower in the steamer, have some water boiling on the stove. After about 3 or 4 minutes, it should be close to being done. Remember, you don't want to overcook it. So just check it at that point to see if it's just barely fork tender, which it is. It looks perfect. Then it's done, and it will be less stinky if you just cook it for that long. Another really easy way to cook cauliflower is in the microwave. So put it in a microwavable container, just a little bit of water to help keep it moist. Put a lid on it. Stick it in the microwave. Start out with about 3 minutes. After about 3 minutes, it should be close to being done. And it looks like it's just perfect. So a really easy way to season it at this point is to add a little bit of that peanut sauce, the peanut dip that we made earlier, to the cooked cauliflower and mix it up. In case we haven't convinced you yet that you might want to try some cauliflower, roasting vegetables, especially cauliflower, is a really good way to bring out the natural sweetness, and it can convince even vegetable haters that they really do like vegetables. It kind of caramelizes the sugars a little bit and makes them brown and crispy. So I wanted to show you how to do that with cauliflower. So I started out with about 3 or 4 cups of cut up cauliflower, and just pour over 1 tablespoon of olive oil, and just toss it together just so it's all coated well. And spread them out so they're not touching, and if you can, arrange them so that the flat side is pointing down to the pan. That's the part that gets the most browned and crispy. So that's all there is to it. You just put them in a preheated oven at 425 degrees. I wanted to show you another quick topping to put on top of cauliflower or really any other vegetables. So first of all, in a heated dry skillet, I've added a couple of tablespoons of sesame seeds, and you just let those heat on a medium-high heat until they start to pop, start to get kind of aromatic, and just stir them occasionally while they're heating. Make sure not to not let them get overly browned or they start to get bitter. Just golden and brown. So once they're browned, I'm just going to show you how to do it with a mortar and pestle today, but you can also do it in a food processor or a blender, or you could probably even just use a rolling pin a little bit just to smash up the sesame seeds a little bit to release their flavor. Add a little bit of salt and just grind it up a little bit. Once you try this, you'll want to keep it in your fridge in a jar because it's good sprinkled on any vegetables, on stir fries, just about a lot of different things. Starting to brown, on the sides that are touching the pan. And so just turn it over. You can either use a spatula or tongs, whatever works the best, just so they're all turned over, and then put it back in the oven for 5 more minutes. Okay, after about 15 minutes, these look just right, just starting to brown a little bit, getting a little bit crispy on the bottom. And so at that point, we just pour them into the serving bowl. And top them with just a little bit of this sesame salt. And we're done. Cauliflower makes a wonderful soup. It's a comfort food to many of us, and I want to begin by showing you a very simple cauliflower cheese recipe that can be used with other vegetables as well. Broccoli, for example, works very well. I just start by adding a little bit of olive oil to my pan, and then I add, this has 1½ cups of diced onions and 1 clove of garlic cut up. Got my pan a little warm there, but I just saute that until the vegetables are tender. Won't take long. Once those are tender, I'm simply going to add some starchy vegetables. And in this pan I have 2 potatoes and 1 carrot, and I'm going to go ahead and add that. And then I'm going to add a whole cauliflower minus 2 cups. So I go ahead and add that to my pan. I like to save the extra 2 cups because I like to have some crunchy pieces of cauliflower in the soup when I'm finished. So I reserve part of that. Then I'm going to add 1½ teaspoons of salt and 4 cups of water, or you can add broth, whichever you prefer. It's very, very easy soup. Now all I'm going to do is put the lid on that and let that simmer for about 30 minutes until the vegetables are very tender. When we come back, I'll show you how to finish the soup off. Once these vegetables have cooked down for about a half an hour, 30 minutes or so, then I want to show you how to finish off this soup. There are several ways to do this. Some people like chunky soup. For this type of soup, I like it to be kind of smooth. So there are options for you. One of the things I may use is just a potato masher, and you can go ahead and mash the vegetables down if you have one of those. If you don't, you can easily take the back of your spoon, if they're nice and soft, and smash those to a consistency you like. Or another option would be to put them in your blender and blend them for a little while and then return them to the pan to finish the soup. Or a really easy method is to use an immersion blender. You simply just put this down into the soup and pulse it a couple times, and then you have a nice smooth soup. You can make it whatever consistency you like. If you like real smooth soup, pulse it a little bit longer. If you like it to be a little thicker and chunkier, you don't have to do it as much. Now, to finish this soup off, one of the neat things is you don't have to add any thickening agent because you have root vegetables. You have your starchy potatoes in there and your starchy cauliflower, which thickens as you cook that down. So we don't have to add heavy cream to make a cream soup, if you will. All you have to do to finish this off is add about a cup of cheddar cheese. And I always buy sharp cheddar cheese for this recipe because it gives it more of a cheesy flavor without having to add a lot of cheese. So simply add 1 cup of cheddar cheese. I like to save a little bit of extra just to garnish the bowls when we're finished. Then I add about 3/4 cup of milk, and I always just use skim milk because that's what I have, and we don't need to add any extra fat. It's not needed with the cheesy flavor. Salt to taste. Whatever works for you, and I'll taste it a little later, make sure that's seasoned right. I like some fresh ground pepper. And then the other secret is, instead of putting all the cauliflower in, I reserved about 2 cups, and I put this in the microwave and steamed it just like Tammy taught you to do, and I add that to my soup. All I have to do now is reheat that a little bit until the cheese melts, serve it up, and garnish it. I'll show you how that looks when we're finished. All we have to do is put that cauliflower soup now in the bowl. This is a lovely comfort food, wonderful for fall and winter time. I like to put a little bit of cheese on top of that to garnish it, a little bit of green onion, and you have a wonderful cheesy cauliflower soup that has very little dairy product in it. It's got the cheese, but it doesn't have the heavy cream like some cream soups do. I'm going to show you a wonderful salad that incorporates cauliflower, another great fall food. All you do is you begin by putting a little bit of mayonnaise, about 5 tablespoons of reduced fat mayonnaise in your bowl, and then you add 2 tablespoons of cider vinegar, and you can whisk that, mix that around just a little bit. Then I like to add either a shallot, or I prefer to put in a couple tablespoons or about 2 chopped or sliced green onions. Mix that around a little bit. Caraway seed is an interesting spice to add to this, and you add about 1/2 teaspoon. If you like that, that's an optional spice. I like to put in some fresh ground black pepper. Mix that around a little bit. That's essentially your dressing, but I like to get that ready to go to begin with. And then I'm going to add 3 cups of chopped cauliflower. And then I like to add some romaine lettuce. Now, some people are familiar with this type of lettuce. It's got the bigger leaves. They're easy to pull back and then chop. And since this is a creamy chopped salad, I like to add some chopped romaine to that. And then I like to add some sweet tart apple. Something like a Rome or a Macintosh work really well for this recipe. Then I'm ready to toss. A tossed chopped salad with wonderful cauliflower incorporated into it. Many, many people like this recipe when I serve it to them.
I want to stand up and holler. It doesn't matter how you serve it, makes it feel so powerful. It's my super duper favorite edible. I gotta tell you, nothing can compare.
I do declare.
I love that cauliflower.